Hi guys,
Hello.
welcome to the series. We are so lucky today.
Yay.
We're so blessed. We have the creative person here in the house, an expert. Okay, Jimbo Clark, all the way from Taiwan. Okay, so today we're going to kind of discuss how do we kind of hack into that innovative mind. I mean, do we have an innovative mind? Does everyone have an innovative mind, or is it something we're born with? I don't know. We're gonna ask the expert and see what he has to say about it. Right. So as you know, Yi is always with me, always
Yes,
together.
I'm always here.
Yeah. So we're
Sometimes
not
I'm
gonna
not,
go
but I'm
into
usually here.
we're not gonna go into lengthy introductions about us because you guys already know us. But
Mm.
we are gonna let Jimbo kind of speak about who he is and where he's from and what he's all about. So we're gonna start off with something I find very interesting, right? When I kind of like researched Jimbo, there's so many things I found out about him. So the first thing which I find the most interesting, and we'll talk about how we kind of met, how I met Jimbo, and how we both met Jimbo virtually, of course, because of COVID. So first question, Jimbo, how did you go from Jim to Jimbo?
um, yeah, that's it, Jimbo is a very Southern American name, right? So from Texas or Alabama, my name's Jimbo. My daddy's name was John Bo. But I'm not from that part of America. I'm from the Pacific Northwest, Seattle area. So my name used to be Jim, and Jim Clark. And when I came to Taiwan, I found out that in Taiwan, in Chinese, there's no single syllable name. So nobody would call me Jim Clark. They would all call me Jimu Ke La Ke, and I was
Very
like,
long.
yeah, Jimu Ke La Ke, because they can't say single syllable names, right? So they just kind of transliterated over into Chinese. And so I asked my friends, what does Jimu Ke La Ke mean? And so, okay, here's a test. Here's a test for you guys. So,
He's testing
Ke
us.
Ke, I'm
Yes.
gonna say an English name in Chinese, very famous person, a very famous character. Ke Kin Te.
I have no idea.
Ke Kin Te.
Oh, I know. Clark Kent.
Clark Kent. Yes.
Yes. Man, Clark Kent.
Okay, here's another one.
Yeah.
Ke Gai Bo. Ke Gai Bo. Clark Gable. He was an actor.
Gable.
He was in Gone with the Wind.
Okay.
Clark Gable. Okay.
Oh,
So in the
okay.
end, it ends up that Clark has no, Kulaka has no meaning. But
It's just
Jimu,
your name. Yeah.
Jimu does have a meaning. Jimu means chicken mother
Ah, yes. Yeah.
in Taiwanese, right?
Yeah.
Fukian, right? In fact, it can mean the mother of all chickens. And so I
That's
was,
mother hen, isn't it?
it's the mother hen. Yes, it's the mother hen. It's the Jimu.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really like that. And so I went on
Hey,
a long journey.
Jimbo, if
Yeah.
when you're sharing about your name, maybe I should share about my name as well. So that's why you will wonder why I usually tell people to just call me Yi instead. Because
Okay.
apparently my name is Yi Xiaoshan. Xiaoshan in Mandarin is called Xiaoshan. If you're in Taiwan
Right.
a lot, you'll be hearing this name a lot, and it's not a very nice name. Apparently, it is a
Uh,
terminology that they called in Taiwan. In Mandarin, for a certain person, they'll call this name. Do you know?
you see, no, I'm a good boy, so I don't know any of that. I'm sorry. I only know the good words in Taiwanese.
Okay, then you don't attempt to call my name
Yeah.
in Taiwan, please, because apparently my
No.
name, apparently my name means not a very good name. Apparently, so Yi will
Yeah.
be fine.
Like I feel your pain. The chicken mother feels your pain. Yeah. So my when I went to get married here, I have to ask Agong. Agong is like the grandfather. If I could marry my girlfriend at the time. And he said, "You're a nice guy, but you have a bad name." And so he actually helped me find my Chinese name.
He said
And my
you had
Chinese, well, I mean, he didn't say, you have he's like, your name is kind of not lucky, I
yeah.
it was my
Yeah,
third
just a Chinese.
try,
So usually
at a Chinese name. The number of strokes and Chinese
yes.
are very luck oriented.
Yes.
And so he gave me my Chinese name, which is Jingbo, Jingse de Jingbo along the Bo, the golden
Wow.
wave.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he
Wow.
told me the money will just come in like a tsunami. So then because my Chinese name is Jingbo, so then my English nickname became Jimbo.
Jimbo.
Ah.
Okay.
And then
Relatable, actually.
I tried to kill Jimbo because I was like in my company. It was a very I worked in the same company for 13 years. And so it was kind of my nickname in that company. And when I left my company, I started to be a consultant. And I kind of think, no one's going to take Jimbo seriously. My name's Jimbo. I'd like to charge you a lot of money for my, to consult, like, why?
Yeah.
But in this day, in the LinkedIn day, Jimbo Clark, you look right now, if you guys go on LinkedIn, Jimbo Clark, I'm the one that's not from Alabama. There is one guy, Jimbo Clark, that guy. But in general, Jim Clark, there's a million.
Very unique.
Jimbo Clark, yeah. So then it's just kind of, and then it becomes a story, and so that's the Jimbo story. And I should give props to my wife because I literally, there was one time when I took all my Jimbo name cards from that company and I burnt them. I said, I'm killing Jimbo. I'm going back to Jim. And my wife, she's so cool. She just looked at me, she goes, I fell in love with Jimbo. What's wrong with Jimbo? Right? That's who I knew. That's the guy I fell in love with. Why do you worry about people? Why are you so worried what people think about you? My wife is super, super cool. Just very down to earth. If you know her for 1 minute, you know her for 10 years. She has no duplicity in her. She's just I love Jimbo. Oh, okay. I guess maybe I won't kill Jimbo.
So your alter ego kind of became you. So Beyonce has Sasha Fierce on stage. So your so-called stage or your so-called name actually stuck to you, and it became.
And it was my stage name. I literally, my job in the 90s to the mid 2000s was taking Taiwanese people traveling around the world. We used to run parties with 600 people. So it was an English club that had no classroom. And so we ran events. We'd bungee jump. We'd do pottery. Anything you can do in English. And so Jimbo was a larger than life caricature of a person, who would get it, like, just do crazy things. And so I had to kind of come to peace with being both Jim and Jimbo. And what I found, you talked about innovation and creativity.
Yeah.
What I found out was that Jimbo was a part of me that was out of the box. And it was the part of me that was willing to step over the line a little bit. Whereas actually I'm pretty risk averse. I'm pretty, like, as my nature, like, I've been here for 33 years. All you have to do to be in Taiwan for 33 years is be afraid to leave, right? So I mean, I'm a pretty risk averse person, but Jimbo was this, woo, yeah. And finding the balance between, it took me about 10 years, some therapy, going to some 12-step meetings, and now I'm kind of,
I'm so glad you got your Sasha Fierce out.
Yeah,
Yes.
actually. But usually, I think that's what usually it happens, right? There's always this duality, especially when you have you try to put yourself in a different persona. So that persona is usually how do you say a contrast towards your nature by per se. So you have to make peace with both, right? So I think let's try to dig a little bit into our Jimbo's mind, because he's a very innovative person, and sometimes we kind of don't really know what exactly they are thinking in their mind, right? So let's play a little game here. You have your pen and your paper, right? Okay,
I need a pen and paper. Yes.
Yes. Yay! Okay, so I'm going to come up with a word, because I actually went to your one of your session before, and in that session, you guys are the one who made me have to draw things on the box, which is something very interesting, and I would love to see how you will it react back from if we were doing it back to you. So we want you to actually with this is a wordplay game lah. Okay, we're going to use a word, and we want you to draw that word. Not draw the word, but draw the meaning of the word, and in your interpretation. So I noticed that you came up with this word called integrate, right?
Mhm.
It's a combination of innovative with greatness, I think. So could you draw to us how does integrate actually look like?
You had to, right, E? You just had to.
Yeah. Because I
Yeah.
mean, right, usually when we do the session, right, it's usually like, they make us draw things. I'm like, oh man, how the hell do I do this? So I was wondering.
Okay, there you go. There it
Wow.
is.
Can you explain a
Okay.
little bit? It looks pretty straightforward actually, but
Pretty
do you
abstract,
want
right?
do you mind?
Do you want to interpret it for me?
No, I would love to hear from your interpretation.
Okay.
No,
Okay. So this is the great symbol, right? Greater than.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes.
But it's also an arrow,
Yes.
Correct.
right? So
Yes.
so the greater than is what the part that is leaving the box. So this is the box. So you're but there's a connection. There's still a connection, even though I've got this piece that, how do I become greater than myself? How do I become greater than my thinking? To do that, I'm going to have to leave my inner thinking.
Correct.
But at the same time, I still have to be connected.
Mhm.
And so I want to innovate to greatness. But to innovate to greatness, I'm going to have to leave my comfort zone. Yeah.
Interesting.
And
Actually,
and
kind
the
of
desire
connects
to be great, and the desire to be great is what
Yes.
pulls you out of the box.
Interesting.
Because you can be just fine in the box, right? In the box thinking is great.
Yeah.
Serves us 90% of the time, right?
True.
And so you don't there's no, for most of our lives, there's no reason to think out of the box. And sometimes thinking out of the box can get you in trouble. You think, oh, maybe I don't have to, follow this law, or maybe I don't have to pay my taxes, or maybe I don't have to stop at this stoplight, or, all these things. I only had one drink. I don't know, I can drive, so the box serves us a lot. But if you want to live a life that's really great, if you want to tap into, you have to leave your comfort zone. Yeah.
True.
That draws us out.
How did you come up with that? Or what inspired you to actually come up with integrate? Because it's such a simple word, but it just hits the nail, You're like,
I was in Kota Kinabalu.
Malaysia.
Yeah,
Malaysia.
2000, yeah, yay, Malaysia. So in 2005, I quit my job of 13 years. My son was just under 4 years old, and my daughter was just under 1 year old. And I was ready to leave Taiwan. I was like, man, I've been here for 20 some odd years. I want to go. 15 some odd years. I want to go. I was like, okay, I can go anywhere. So we put all of our stuff in storage, and we traveled for 7 months. And we went to every place that I ever thought about living, we went to. So first stop was KL, because at that time I really wanted to move to Malaysia. And then I've got a really great friend of mine, David Powell, who lives in Kota Kinabalu, Asia Ability. They do amazing team building events. So I went down to Kota Kinabalu. I went up to Penang. I have a long love affair with Penang, and some really crazy.
Cheryl can relate with you.
Oh yeah, I got a great Penang story to tell later. And I was trying to start a business, and I knew I wanted to be about innovation. I started just playing with, word associations, and that came up. And so the very first thing I did was just to look, is integrate.com still available? And it was. And so I just, immediately just, spent the $12 or whatever. And then I sat on it for, a couple of weeks and started talking to people. How does this sound? How does this sound? And yeah, then it was just done. So it was of all the things I did starting my business, it was the part that just came quickly.
Yeah, I think once you're firm with your, direction, usually it will be pretty quick to actually establish it, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yep.
That clarity of purpose, that clarity of vision is probably the most important part of innovation. Creativity, you don't have to be clear. To be creative, you can just say, begonia. That's creative. It's something different, right?
Yeah.
Creativity can be unexpected. Creativity can be whimsical. But to be innovative, you have to have some level of clarity. We always use this as kind of you have to have some kind of scope for the future.
Yes,
and
the frame.
The frame. And so once you have that frame, then the ability to be innovative, I think, is inherently natural in us. It's just been taught out of us. We have been taught to be problem solvers and goal achievers. And risk averse. That's, I mean, just those three things are what school's all about. Solve problems, achieve a goal, and be risk averse. And you do those three things, you'll be successful. But if you do those three things to be innovative,
kills it. Kills it completely, I think.
Yeah.
Now it makes me want to ask, I don't know, this other word that I actually wanted to have you draw, it's kind of a bit, it's a very simple word, because it's a very simple word, but I want to see what's your version of it, because you use the term hack the box, right? So I would like you to draw hack.
Ooh.
You think I'm going to ask them to draw the box, right?
The first thing that came to mind was hack. We're gonna hack the box. That's not quite what we're thinking about here.
You know, just a fun fact. Just a fun fact. Hack, right? Is I mean, a sweet that we used to kind of like buy little packets in Malaysia, and
hack.
Yeah, hack, and it means hanya aku cinta kamu, right? Hack. And basically in Malay, that means I only love you. So if someone gives you a hack, what do you call it? Sweet, it means they love you.
I've never heard of that before.
Maybe because I went to Malay high school. Yeah. Hanya aku cinta kamu, which means only I love you. So if someone gives you a hack sweet, be careful. That's what it means.
No, that's an indirect confession. Wow.
All right.
Wow.
So
Cheryl, you have to interpret that first before he explains it. What do you see here, Cheryl?
I gotta get the whole thing in there.
Somewhat like a box. Is it a box? And that's like a person, I guess.
It feels to me, it looks like someone driving a rocket ship.
Yeah.
On top of water.
Right. It's constantly moving.
It's one of my favorite phrases is build the airplane while you're flying it. Because otherwise it'll never get off the ground. So, and I think especially like with COVID-19 right now, in terms of the virtual world, virtual training, virtual collaboration, we're all building the airplane while we're flying because we're doing important things.
Yes.
We're doing real business. We're getting things done. And everything is a working prototype as we're doing it, right? And so that's he's hacking the airplane while he's flying it. So it's kind of MacGyvering yourself through life. That's so this is the ground. So it's in the air and it's flying. And it started off as one thing, and now he's had to make it into something else. And so I think when I think of hacking, it's like a mind hack, or it's you're taking something that exists now and you're making some adjustments to it. You're fixing things on the fly.
Yeah, test run constantly, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where we all get stuck sometimes. Like you said, we should be, fixing it as we go along and basically innovating. And a lot of us feel that, wait till we have enough money, wait till we have enough experience, wait till we have enough certification, to do it. And, that's something I struggle with as well, because as you said earlier, we've grown up with all this, do it this way, step by step. Do this, don't go and take this risk, as you said, right? And a lot of us, I think, for me anyway, as I get older, that those ideas don't appeal to me anymore. And I want to do that, and I'm kind of trying to, but sometimes it's difficult. It's like you still have that, are you sure you want to do that? You want to put yourself in trouble? What if you fall? Like, it's constantly in the back of your mind. So I love that interpretation of hack the box. And I guess that's why I was so in tune with what you were doing at the donated session that we went for, right? And I love the way that you brought us on that journey. Guys, if you all haven't attended a session with Jimbo, you need to definitely need to attend a session. It will just blow your mind.
Agree. blow your mind. Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's true.
And as you can see, his personality, right? He's extremely entertaining, but the when you talk about it from a perspective of presentation, I have to be very honest here. He's the best online facilitator I have met online, and I've gone like for multiple webinars, workshops. How smooth, and we're not even talking about his personality yet or the content, but I'm just talking about how well you facilitate. And this is early on, when COVID first started. So I think we had a chat after your
Maybe
session.
you
I
can
told
share a
you,
little bit. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Maybe
What's
you can
that?
share a little bit about bringing your story of the hack the box from the the
Sure.
physical to the virtual one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how did you
Could you share a
innovate,
little
right?
bit? How?
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you actually? Yeah. Come into that.
Desperation. I mean, honestly, let's just be
I
honest,
think there's
man.
a lot of industry that's currently in a desperate
So,
stage right now as well.
so this whole box thing is what happens if you take the phrase "think out of the box" literally. And so, for the past 11 years, myself and about 100 now there's over 120 people that have learned how to use this process. We've put boxes on more than 20,000 people's heads, and you put the box on so you can take it off, right? So this is thinking in the box. This is thinking out of the box. And in 2019, we sold 5,000 boxes around the world. And then COVID-19 came, and and this is a very tactile, face-to-face, kind of training program. And so in March, I realized that I wasn't going to sell any boxes, and I'm not going to sell any very many box certifications this year.
Yeah.
My biggest fear was always that people would figure out how to do this without this. And now I train people how to do that with this, And so it was literally, it was the biggest fear. Is like, wow, if people can do this without getting trained up and purchasing a box, where's my business?
Yeah.
But for me, I realized if I don't find a way to connect with people virtually, where's my relevance? If I'm not relevant, I don't have a business. So I can either protect my past business, or I can do what it takes to become relevant. And so we started calling when we first started testing this, and the people who helped me test this were a lot of my box facilitators. We called this the baby box. Okay, we're gonna do the baby box. Let's make a baby box and stuff. And I just threw myself in. That's why I started donating sessions. So in April, I donated 20 sessions. And you do something 20 times in a month, you get smooth.
Yeah.
Right. And then I've now donated over 85 sessions for 1,500 people.
Wow.
And what has that done for me? Well, it's meant that I'm very comfortable in this space. It means I know how to connect and how to manipulate the platform and how to set the timing. I mean, so then you just become good at it. So then what does that mean? That means that I got a business, and I can do this for a living. Now, I'm not just doing this. I have other things that I can do for a living virtually. But then I got so good at this that people ask me, can you train me how to do this? And so now I've trained 45 people, including Cheryl. So yeah, you should offer one of your inclusion things for this group here, right?
Guys, I was just impressed by Jimbo. I mean, if I can right now, I would go and attend. I still want to, you talked about the fact that people were not want to do the face-to-face session anymore, or even buy the box. And personally, even though I've done the online, I would still want to go and attend like the session. I would want the box, because there's just something about even that box, that baby box you're talking about, right? There's something about holding something in your hand, even virtually. It feels more real. Like if I can hold something, now I only have an apple with me, but if I can hold something in my hand, right? It's nice. You feel like you're participating. You feel like you're part that session, you feel like there's interactivity in that. And I'm a big person when you talk about interactivity. That's my keyword, right? I think it's so crucial. And you did that even with the baby box, right? And if you guys have been to his sessions, writing on it, right? It makes it so real, and it makes it something that, like you kind of open your eyes to, because thinking about it is one thing, putting it down, seeing it on paper, reflecting,
and feeling it.
it's a deep process. And I feel that's super enlightening for anyone, but you have to go into any of these sessions with an open mind. I think that's key. Definitely.
It's creating a shared experience in my space, and in your space, so that when we go into a breakout room, that shared experience of just reflecting and writing and thinking about the same thing, and having a prompt that I've already written. So when someone says, so what do you think? You're not, a lot of times you get in a breakout room, you're like, what are we talking about? What are we supposed to do? Here you've already written it down. And so I love the phrase. I like to think about, there's the ground level. Most of us live our life at the first or second floor of life. We're not really grounded. We're kind of, upstairs somewhere. And then, if we're lucky, you come to something like this and you get grounded. And what I try to do is I try to get you down to B1. It's not B2, it's not B3. Nobody's going to cry. Nobody's going to, have some kind of spiritual reckoning. Yeah. Although I did get a really nice email from someone recently. They said, I went to one of your Hack Your Box sessions back in April. I just lost my job. I didn't know what I was doing. And I just needed that hour and a half of reflection. I walked out with clarity and purpose. And it was really quite a great, reminder. If somebody I don't even, hope they're not watching, I don't remember who it was, because 1,000+ people come to these things. They're just little, But that connecting is, we always say connection before content.
Yes, it's true.
Right?
It's true. Yeah. I mean,
in the virtual world.
I mean, to be honest, I think this is really, that's why I think one of the things that's very effective of what you are doing actually is really the building the connectivity part of it as well with the interaction part. Because during this situation, the COVID situation, a lot of people are usually, like you say, they are very boxed up. Basically, that's the word for it, right? They're very boxed up. And to have a little glimpse of sharing that with other people, that, hey, I'm not the only one. Everyone there is feeling how I'm feeling. It actually gives a pretty good impact to it as well. So I think that is what makes one of the ingredients of why this is very, effective in one way.
It's okay to be anxious. It's okay to be depressed. It's okay to have a bad week. It's okay to have a bad month, and it's kind of normal. And, we think about the box, on the outside, I put all the things that I think is expected of me, and so the gap between the outside and the inside can be a lot, because we're, as parents, we're expected to be brave and courageous and, put a happy face in front of our kids. And at work and with our clients, with our colleagues. And so, having just that time of inner reflection and sharing with even a stranger from, Uganda or Switzerland, or, you know what I mean? It's like the people are coming from all
around the
over.
world.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I look at it a lot like traveling. One of the great things about traveling is you have anonymity. You walk into some country, you're meeting at, some place, and you can share anything about yourself because you have this kind of anonymity. I think people are finding that now too with these Zoom and all these different kinds of things that there's a kind of a willingness to be authentic.
Agreed. I mean, one of our viewers is from the UK, and I met her, and she's a fitness teacher, right? And she's trying to now go on virtually. And how does she, because she's been used to doing things traditionally in terms of how she offers the services. And like you said about being authentic, right? I met her through one of the workshops, actually. We've become quite good friends now. So, I mean, those are the kind of relationships that you build in these virtual spaces, and they're amazing, right? And one of the keywords I like, or I love, when we associate with Jimbo, right, which is our next word actually. It's co-creation.
Do I need more paper? Is that the point?
Yes. Last word.
I'm drawing big. I know I'm drawing big. You said get a piece of paper. It's all recycled, you know.
So we can see, but you know, your drawing is actually quite clear.
Yeah.
Usually you have to ask them to like take it and, you know, try to put it in a way to actually be able to see. So yeah.
Quite fun to actually see people drawing.
I love the background actually, all those faces at the back.
There you go.
Wow.
Nice. Okay, now you have to explain this because.
Oh, come on. This is obvious.
It feels so ambiguous.
This is so obvious. This is co-creation, man.
So it's two creation combining together.
I don't know. Well, when I was drawing the circles, I was drawing the circles as different people, but it could also be different areas of expertise or different domains of knowledge. Because one part of co-creation is you want to make sure that you have diversity of thinking, diversity of experience. And then the orange parts are like I don't know. Have you ever been like in a drum circle? Have you ever like, you know, where there's a bit of chaos and then a beat takes over. And then all of a sudden there's that moment where everybody's in.
People kind of
and you're all looking at each other. Yeah. And maybe some chanting or, you know, just music coming in and out. There's no plan, but something comes. You know, I think that's the possibility. It doesn't happen every time. It doesn't happen all the time. And sometimes, like I like drumming. And sometimes in a drum circle, you know, it'll just be kind of cacophony and, you know, maybe one guy, you know, maybe there's just kind of like one thing that happens and it's okay. But then there's those moments where, you know, magic happens.
Yeah.
And the term I like for that is the space between. So, you know, there's the space between, you know, the people and the process and, you know, the outcome that you're driving. And that space between is what I think real facilitators try to make happen. The process creates the space between, right? The environment, the platform creates the space between. And I think that's really right now what I see smart people starting to do. They figured out virtually how to give content. They've figured out how to create engagement, how to keep people awake, you know, how to keep people with their cameras on. So they've gotten from you know, no engagement to engagement. But what they haven't been able to do consistently yet is create that space between. Because the space between would be happen in the breaks. The space between happens in random conversations. It happens over the lunch. It happens in a pairing during the program. It happens as a part of the program, but it's the way that happens. And so we can, as trainers, facilitators, educators, we've learned how to kind of create the conditions for
it to be able to really grow, right?
But in this space here, it's harder. It's harder.
Yeah.
And so I think what you guys are modeling right now is great, because all I get from the two of you and from me too, I hope, is just authenticity and just being real.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're not putting on a show. You're not turning it up to 11 and you're not turning it down to 8. This is just who you are.
Yeah.
True.
Right. And that's the catalyst for the space between. Is having a facilitator, having a leader who's just willing to be themselves, and willing to show some care for the participants. And it's a little bit harder, and it takes a little bit more.
But
it takes
that is
it takes a little bit more something.
The after sessions, right? Like I've noticed a lot of people have done it. You do your after session. So after you do like a session on Zoom, you stay back and say, hey, let's chit chat, you know. It's not part of the program, but if you have time, stay back. And I've seen people like Mala really actually brought me to you. to be very honest. She tagged me on your post and she said, you got to go for this. And I completely trust her and believe in her. And anything she asks me to go for, I'll go blindly. I don't even research, I'll just go. So she does it as well. So every one of her sessions, once she finishes, and I feel a lot of the magic actually happens there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's how our relationship
sure.
happens as well.
And there's a moment when you know you're there. So like, let's say there's 20 people and then like, you know, maybe 8 or 9, and there's a couple of questions and stuff. And then there's just a moment where it's like, okay, good. It's just the cool kids. All right. So, you know, and I don't know when that moment, you know, it's not like there's a number, but there's just that moment where we know, okay, we're all here just because, you know, we're just curious.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And and that's and I've noticed that as people have gotten more professional at attending things, that at least for me, I find people stay less. That in the early days of COVID, I found more people would stick because they didn't have anything else to do in their life. Like, I'm in lockdown. Okay. You're willing to take care of me for 30 more minutes. Okay. Right. And now I see people being a little bit more compressed with their time, a little bit more hard stoppy, as it were. That's okay. That's why this would be a great time to mention Brains on the Beach, because this is what we're trying to tackle with Brains on the Beach.
So Jimbo runs this thing called Brains.
Do share. What is this Brains on the Beach?
You guys will be so excited to know where it actually was born, right?
Yeah.
And focus on the art of co-creation. So please tell us, like, because the idea of it is you find people who are famous for not working together well, and then you work with them. Usually people run away from that, right? Oh, you're problematic, or your team is difficult. Like, okay, you're a hard case, let's avoid you. So you on the other hand, I guess that explains the whole, I mean, all the things you've explained so far, right? Like, you run into. So tell us about that, right? How does that work?
So the short story is Brains on the Beach was 3 of us, myself, James Bishop, and Glenn Wilkinson. James is a Kiwi in Hong Kong. Glenn is an Australian living in Shanghai at the time. And we realized that we learn the most when we're working with colleagues, not when we're at a conference. Going to a conference, like going to a wedding. Oh, hi, hey, yeah. Oh, yeah, hey.
Yeah.
Right?
You're right.
And then you go to a session, and when you go to someone's session, you're seeing their best stuff.
Yeah.
And they're, you know, putting on the best show they can at a conference.
Best version of you.
The best version of them when they're but so what we did is we said there are a lot of people that we like to work with, but we don't have the money to bring them in on a gig. So as a trainer, if I can satisfy a client by myself, I keep all the money. If I bring somebody in, now I got to split it. And I bring 2 people in, I got to split. Oh, I'm going to bring 4 people in, you know? And so we said, we're going to invite 16 people and everyone's going to pay their own way. And we're going to provide them with a client. And the client's going to give them a problem. We're going to put them into teams of 4, give them 36 hours to come up with the best possible solution. They present the solution to the client. The client declares a winner, but they don't have to buy anything. And so we did this 3 times in a row. Started to feel pretty good. So then the 4th time we did it was when we said, okay, these were prototypes. We committed to do it 3 times. And so the 4th time we went down to Sabah, down to Kota Kinabalu, to the Survivor Island, where they filmed the very first Survivor television.
Survivor,
Yeah. And so we had 12 people there, and we came up with some amazing models. One of the models that we created on that beach, we now use for Lenovo for their global leading innovation trainings. Yeah. So Bob, we've done 40 Bobs around Brains on the Beach around the world, from 3 hours to 4 days. We've gone to nonprofits, and
so
now
basically it's to churn out proposed ideas for companies to work on.
It's like a design sprint.
Okay.
And sometimes there's a company. Sometimes we just give a topic. Like we did a series on how do we create the conditions in Asia for women to be able to be seen as equal at the C-suite level? So that in Singapore, Hong Kong, Shanghai, We partnered up with HKUST MBA's program. And so the whole idea is we want to get people who normally don't think together to think together. And so consultants normally don't work together, but then we bring in the HR side, we bring in the business side. And right now we're just starting to plan out the virtual brains on the beach. And, how can we really focus? So the whole focus of the virtual brains on the beach is how can we create that space between?
Yeah.
And so I'll make sure you guys get invites because it'll be it'll be amazing. I don't know how it's going to be amazing. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what the commitment's going to be. I'm just telling you.
I'm sure.
I'm just telling you. It's probably going to be a big commitment. I mean, it's probably going to be like a 3 or 4 day, parts of days. It's probably going to be a big commitment. But it's gonna rock your world. And Brains on the Beach has really been a big part of my life. And the other place we went to is Painkiller Island. Do you know?
What did you say?
Painkiller.
It's we call it Painkiller. I think it's also Pangkil Island. It's off of Singapore. So if you go to Singapore, you take the boat to Bintan. Then it's like a private island. And so we would fly people from all over the world would fly to this private island to think differently, and think differently about their lives, think differently about what they want to do next.
Wow. Okay.
So I was just asking the audience, right? How did they start innovating, especially during the CMCO? So Christiane says that in May she increased her frequency of posting in Facebook, started writing posts in each of her individual services, and after a personal branding masterclass, wrote even more personalized posts for engagement.
Wow, very
so
nice.
a year and a half ago, I had never posted on LinkedIn. And I'm sorry, I just crossed 2,000 or so. I'm learning. I'm not consistent. I think that's the biggest problem. I think Cheryl's very consistent.
Yes, I agree as well.
Yeah, that has been one of my most consistent things in my life, LinkedIn. To be honest.
Yeah.
That's the difference between Cheryl and Mila, I guess, because we actually.
Oh my God! Yes, from Mississauga. Hey. Good to see you. Yeah, So we met in Mississauga, and we had a great time talking about the gamification, and it was so good to see you too, man. I'm so happy that you're connected to all of this. Fantastic.
Jega was on Global Women Empowerment Summit. We actually had a talk together. I mean, a panel together where we talked about how he homeschools his kids. So that is, oh my God, the innovation in how he homeschools his kids is another form of innovation if you think about it, actually.
Guess what? That's another thing that he and I share in common, because my son is second year in college. Yeah, second year in college, having never gone to school before now. Like his first. It's so funny. I helped him get into college last year, so I went to Seattle where he was going to college, and I get this phone call, "Dad, I'm screwed. I'm like, okay, son, what's up? I got to write a paper. Okay. You're in English 101. You're going to have to write a paper. Yeah, but it has to be double spaced. I don't know what double spaced means.
That's very
interesting. He had a big transition to the academic world. Yeah.
So how did he cope with it then? How did he cope with it?
He applied himself. He got straight A's. Oh, he did two things. Right.
Okay.
So three things. Number one is he really did apply. My son's got discipline. He's a baseball player, and baseball is a very disciplined sport. So he's got discipline. Number two, he asked for help.
Oh,
so
that's very important.
He asked for help from English tutors. He asked for help from math tutors. He was willing to ask for help. And that was really I always thought to myself, because he's also a proud kid, I said, if he doesn't ask for help, he's going to have a hard time. But he was willing to ask for help. Third thing, he asked around for what are the easy classes.
That's the smart thing.
Who are the easy? Which professor is the easier professor? And if in the first week the professor seems hard, drop quick and transfer to another one. So that's how I taught him that one. That was he learned from his dad on
That's
that
very
one.
smart because that's what I usually tell my students, because that's what I realized. So I think it's a, I don't know, it's a young thing, I guess, the new generation thing, kind of thing. Like they have trouble, but they don't ask about it. They're
Yeah.
like so worried to show the weaknesses out of it. So because of
Yeah.
that, a lot of times that's where they hit the wall, and then they'll say
Oh,
like,
yeah.
and then they'll blame everything around them, like why did this happen to them, kind of thing. So I think it's very important, like I say, they need to ask, very importantly, need to ask, and of course ask the right question, ask the smart question.
Yeah. Or ask the right person, right? I mean,
Yeah, correct.
yeah.
That's very
Yeah.
good. That's very good.
But
So I
do you believe that all of us can innovate? Because you always, I mean, when you're younger, people always say things like, "Oh, they are, you either you're an innovator or you're a creative person. Not everyone can be creative. Not everyone can innovate." And
think
we are
it's
in a
also one of
position
the things
now.
that, yeah, I think it's one of the things that we've been hearing a lot of people are telling. I mean, they're saying that, oh, but I'm not a creative
I'm not a
person. I
creative
mean,
person. I'm not
how
innovative.
Okay.
yeah.
So let's talk about two things. Let's talk
Yeah.
about creative and innovative,
Yeah.
because you're kind of using those two terms almost, together, and
Yeah.
they're different things.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
So let's talk about creativity.
Yeah.
There is a Dr. Kirtan from
Mhm.
the Buffalo School of Creativity. Did a like 30-year study, and he found out that there's actually creativity is like on a continuum. And so there's two kinds of creativity. And he uses the phrase innovator and adapter. And I use the phrase out of the box thinker and in the box creative thinker.
Yeah.
So when we think of creativity, we usually think of that out of the box innovator. But when you look at creativity in the the previous century, most of that was in the box. Let's look at Drucker. It's all about Six Sigma. Let's find ways of finding improvement. Let's make incremental improvements. Let's find a way to make the system work for us. So in the box creativity is very good at making the system work better. And out of the box creativity, that system sucks. Let's make a new one.
Oh.
And so the majority of people are somewhere in the middle. And then there are people that are at the outlying. And actually, you cannot be innovative unless you have that in the box creativity thinking going for you. You need the engineer. The gravity exists, physics exists, budgets exist, time constraints exist. And so to see this kind of creativity as innovative is a misnomer, because innovation requires both. Right? And so is everyone innovative? Yes, we've all innovated. And I think it depends on how you define innovation.
Yeah, that's the point.
I find creativity as finding a better way of doing something.
Yeah.
Just let's find our new. Let's look. Creativity is new, and there's two different kinds of new. There's new out, and there's new way in. Okay. To me, innovation is about thinking new thoughts, being creative, taking new actions to solve real needs, right? And to add value for the user and the organization, or for you and me. Right? So if I'm being innovative, all I have to do is find a way to add more value for you and me. By thinking and doing new things around something that we care about.
True.
And do we do that? I mean, it could just be, your mom found a better way to make cookies. My wife has just found such a great recipe for cookies. Oh my God. And it's I know this is going to sound weird. No butter. It doesn't, it's oatmeal. It's healthy. Some chocolate in it. And so now we eat cookies for breakfast. My wife is a very in the box creative person.
Creative. Yes.
Right? And so she just, she kept playing around with looking for different recipes. She added value to her and me.
Yeah.
By thinking new thoughts, taking new action, meeting a real need. And so I think we all do that. We all do that, but we just don't do this. Hey, pat yourself on the back.
Pat yourself, yes.
Look at me.
That is a great point, right? in the pandemic, a lot of people kind of figured out how to do things with the limited resources they had. They were innovative, right? And you're talking about, cookies, and in my case, like I cut off sugar, right, beginning of this year, and a lot of stuff has sugar. So like you want to cook certain things, you want to make pancakes, there's sugar in them. And I was like, how am I going to eat? Should I just completely forget about pancakes? I'm like, no, I love them, right? So I found a way to remove sugar completely, but still have really lovely pancakes. So but you have to kind of experiment and try. And yes, so if we can do that within the space of cooking or baking or whatever it is, we just have to be able to be open to the idea of doing it in our businesses, for example, right? In
Yes.
our everyday life, like how do you bring innovation in your daily life from a day-to-day basis?
Well, I think for me personally, there's a couple of things. One is I made a decision in 2005 just to live differently. So that's when we decided to homeschool. That's when I decided to start my own business. And my wife and I made the decision to not chase money, and to chase lifestyle instead. And and so, our cars. Okay, today I had to spend 5 minutes screwing the bumper of my car back on because, and it's really. I mean, I'm not going to be embarrassed by it because it's just the truth, right?
Yeah.
So our car's a little bit older than we would like, but you know what? Until this year, every year I've spent 6 to 8 weeks in America with my parents, and my kids know their grandparents and their cousins because we said that family was more important than making money. And time together and time with friends is more important than academics. And so whenever my kids say, "Hey, can I do this with somebody?" It's like, okay. You can always learn, but when are you going to experience? And so we've made so many choices along the way to live a very different life that, how do we live? How do we be innovative? I think it has to do with, what's the question you're trying to answer? And, the question I'm trying to answer is, man, how do I make sure that today's good? How do I make sure that I'm loving people? How do I make sure that I'm treating myself and others right? How do I make sure that I'm being respected and respecting? I mean, that's kind of what I try to focus on. If that's what I'm focusing on, then other things come.
True.
When I think about it, everything
Priorities.
that we do goes back to like, what's your purpose, what you want from life. It all kind of goes back to that grounding factor, everything that we do. And I think our biggest issue sometimes is we like to separate things, like, oh, innovation, we put it in this part, this part of our life we put in that part, but it all kind of relates and connects. It's like your picture, it kind of connects, everything connects. And when we fail to see that everything connects, that's when we put ourselves in those boxes, right? We can't come out. So I mean, I love that.
Last thing I want to add to that, because I think in terms of this, pain gain, two easy words to remember. Okay, you guys, you draw pain and gain, right? Right. So most innovation is either about relieving a pain or providing some gain.
Yes.
And in our lives, do you experience pain?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then get innovative and find a way to. And so you did that with Sugar Baby, where there was something, or you see some gain, right? And so you say, hey, there's a gain that I want to get. And so because of this gain, I'm going to try a strategy. New thoughts, new actions, adding value to myself and others, right? And so I'm going to try that. And then as you do it, you adjust it along the ways. And so you're changing your frame. And sometimes you're really focusing on this. And sometimes you go back to this. I think for me, probably the biggest thing was the book, The Blue Ocean Strategy. Did you ever?
Yeah, I've heard of one. Yeah.
It was big, it was pretty big over here in Asia.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And I just decided I wanted to live a blue ocean life. So why would I compete?
Yeah. True. Collaborate instead, right?
Why compete? What's the fun of that?
True. What are some of your inspirations then for you to, get to what, for your actions that you're taking, your whatever decisions you have made, what are some of the inspirations that you get from?
Is there someone that inspires you, or maybe a certain environment or space that
Mm.
helps you become more innovative?
Mm.
How do you get into the
So,
headspace?
Well, okay. Well, that's 4 different questions. So real good.
That's what happens with us,
Yeah, I'll choose one of them and answer them, right?
Sure.
yeah. Just pick and choose.
There was a question okay, my Penang story.
Yes.
So actually, this was a seminal moment for me. Taking the vernacular railway up to Penang Hill,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There's a little
It's
like
a
a
Penang Hill.
guest house hotel right up
Hill.
there, right?
Yes.
So one of my inspirations for innovation was Bucky Fuller, and he was kind of a mad scientist in the 50s. And he was very much around, innovation can be good for everyone. Innovation as social necessity, right? He coined the phrase "spaceship Earth." We're all on this spaceship Earth together. So, anyways, I've always been a fan of Bucky, and I was up on this hill, on Penang Hill, had a couple of beers, feeling the beer buzz, beautiful day, all by myself. And then I go into this hotel, and it sends up that this is where Buckminster Fuller used to have these global conferences, and they had this like phrase that he'd written down on a napkin once when he was there. And the kicker for the phrase was, the cosmic question has been asked: are humans a worthwhile to the universe invention? And the idea is that, someday humans are going to get off this little planet. This planet's going to, and are humans worthwhile to the universe or not? And I think the Matrix had a really good, little monologue about that humans are a disease, right?
Yeah.
And so I pondered that question for 3 years. Just to let you know how long ago this was. I had that phrase in my Palm Pilot. And whenever I would be traveling, I'd meet somebody in a bar or whatever. At the third beer, I'd say, "Hey, let me ask you a question." I'd read this whole thing about worthwhile to the universe invention. And in the end, I realized that the only answer to that question is, am I a worthwhile to the universe invention? Because I'm a human.
Value.
True. Yeah.
Right? So if I am operating in a way that is of value to other humans and to the planet and to the universe, which sounds trippy and weird, but then we as humans can be, valuable to the universe. And so that was kind of there was a lot of things that led to that, but that was kind of like one of the big questions was, how do I make sure that what I'm doing is of value?
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm just so lucky that my wife is so bought into this and so willing to support, and the reason that we ended up homeschooling is because we couldn't afford international school as a consultant, and I couldn't trust the local Taiwan school, and I didn't want to go back to America. And I said, well, let's try it for kindergarten. If we don't like it, we can always stick them in first grade. So I think that's kind of the, at some level, it's the question of, who do I want to be?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then finding that answer makes it kind of like, it points your framing in a certain direction, right?
Yeah.
And once you've got this direction, then you're looking for stuff different than if you were going in that direction.
True. It's the differentiation of the perspective. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I told you, Jimbo, right? The time will just fly. It's been almost an hour now, and the time just went like that, and we're to the end already. So we're gonna bring, and our audience, CJ Johnson, she's from the UK, so she says, "Jimbo, I love your energy." She says, "You're positively nuts. I love it."
I'll accept that. Sometimes I am negatively nuts too, and again, we all go through cycles, right?
Yeah.
So if anybody's out there and you're feeling negatively nuts now, that's okay too.
Yeah.
Life's a cycle. The tide goes in, the tide goes out, and hang in there. We're having a good time tonight, but don't think this is normal.
Yeah,
That's
that's true.
so. Let's go to our last question, right?
Yes.
If you could leave the audience with one advice, how can they start innovating? Like, what is one step if there's something that is completely out of their frame, something that they've never thought about? What is like one micro step they can take to actually start this process? A simple step that they can start
Yeah,
taking.
I think, well, we've done this a lot. And one thing I've become more and more convinced of is asking the right question is 90% of it, you know, and so, you know, pick something that you genuinely care deeply about. And it could just be pain. You know, it could just be that there's something that you're tired of or that you are no longer willing to accept. Or it could be gain. It could be something that you've always wanted to but haven't yet. And just give yourself that question and don't look at it like a problem to be solved or a goal to be achieved or a measurement. You know, look at it as a lifelong adventure because one thing about innovation, it's always iterative. And so just start flying, you know, fly the airplane and build it as you go. So but yeah, that would be my one thing is give yourself and some it's usually best if there's both pain and gain. Something that you're leaving to get something that is attractive to you. And then just don't give up. That's going to be the most important thing is, you know, choose something you really care about, because if you really care about it, then you might not give up. Yeah. That's the simplest thing I can say.
Amazing. So we are so thankful we had Jimbo.
Yeah.
Actually, Jimbo, a little secret, right? He and I have been talking about bringing you
So
on the
many,
show.
so
Not
many
now.
things that we're learning today, right?
Yeah, yeah. We've been talking about bringing you on the show since we met you back then. That was like I think 4, 5, 6 months
But you were
ago.
just shy back then, right?
I mean, I'm not one who's shy, but I was like, okay, how am I gonna like, ask him, because sometimes, you have this
We
view of
don't know
trainers,
if he's willing to
like, are they
come.
gonna say yes? Like, so, I don't know. I just a few days back, I just like, okay, I'm just gonna ask him. I mean, the worst he can say is no, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Worst he can say is no, I can't do it, and we're so glad that you said yes and you're with us. And for those of you watching, or those of them who can't come today, a lot of them have other things to do. They'll be catching the replay, which is going to be on YouTube. So guys, I've put in the comment section, right, Jimbo's contact on LinkedIn, so you can connect with him there now that he's more often on LinkedIn. And go check out the website as well. I've shared the website earlier on, Innov8ive, so you can see what Jimbo does. And thank you so much for watching, everyone. Thanks for tuning
Thank
in.
you. Yay.
We'll see you guys next week at 9 p.m.
High
Bye.
fives. High fives. Virtual high fives. Yay.
Yay.
That's right. Shit, I'm not going to show you my hands.
Yeah. We learned that. We learned that.
Here you go. This is trust right there. That's trust.
You need to watch our show where we brought in a data person.
Yeah.
If you notice now, that's how I say goodbye.
It's too late. Sure. It's already gone. Whatever privacy you thought you had, it was gone before we started. Yeah. Anyways, thanks for inviting. Always pleasure to be there.
Guys. So good night. Bye.
Thank
Bye, guys.
you so much. Bye.
Thank you for joining us. Good night.
See you.